the flub is going on with the WWE brand split at the moment? Kurt Angle can go wherever he wants, Samoa Joe doesn't care. Rey Mysterio has just decided to make a little trip to Raw on Monday night. And don't get me started on Charlotte and Becky. Before, we were getting nice explanations from the McMahon saying, oh, well, we've invited Charlotte and we've invited Becky to jump across, but now we don't even get that. It's nothing new when you remember the past, but all of this seems to have ramped up quite severely over the last couple of weeks. I mean, even the likes of Heavy Machinery and Nikki Cross seem to appear on both shows, even if it's usually just in backstage skits, but they're still looking at me. And I would throw EC3 into that mix too, but for some reason, within the world of kayfabe, WWE has killed EC3 off, and we're never going to know why. It makes no sense. As I think about it though, all I can come up with is that WWE is about to end the brand split. Why? Here's why. Given what has happened, I would just like to say, if we do get around November and Survivor Series time and WWE tries to get me to care about a Raw versus Smackdown feud, I am going to rip out my eyeballs. It's never been believable anyway, but it will be absolutely ridiculous after what we've just seen. Samoa Joe was just on Raw this week because Kurt Angle wanted him to be. Kill me. Like I say though, as I let this information stir through my brain, I started to think that maybe, just maybe, we're about to come to the end of the experiment again. And I know we've got a superstar shake-up on April 16th and 17th, but I just saw Charlotte Flair win the Smackdown Women's title on that show, so I think it's fair to say that anything is possible. No matter what you think the future holds, it probably doesn't, or it may do. It all depends what Vince McMahon thinks when he wakes up one day. And talking of Charlotte, that is more evidence that made its way into my soul that started to make me believe this could be true. For example, let's say that we get to Monday Night Raw and all these shenanigans with the Smackdown Women's title come to light. If anybody decides, the WrestleMania 35, the first ever women's main event in WrestleMania history, is now for both belts, and whoever does win will become the undisputed women's champion, then you've got to imagine that person is then allowed to go to Raw, they're allowed to go to SmackDown, and hell, they're probably allowed to go to NXT too, because who cares? And even if they go the other way and come up with some stipulation where it's all to do with pins, and what I mean by that is, if Becky Lynch pins Ronda Rousey, she becomes the Raw Women's Champion, but Charlotte, for no reason whatsoever, is allowed to keep her prize, then you still have to continue the feud on between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. You cannot do that on April the 7th at the MetLife Stadium or whatever it's called, and then move on to Raw and SmackDown the next day and go, well, we'll come back to that at a later date. You can't. And if that is the case, you've got to sort out the situation with the titles. And if that happens too, both of them have to be up for grabs. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I know you're already thinking to yourself, but Simon, WWE rarely makes sense. Well, I ain't gonna fall on that sword. As soon as we do start falling on that sword, then they can just go and do whatever we want, and we shrug our shoulders and go, ha 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 ha, isn't wrestling so funny and stupid? It is, but it doesn't mean it has to be that way all the time. You can make things work. That's okay. With all that in mind, it may be a wink and a nod that the brand split may be about to go the way of the dodo. I mean, we've got all of this with the women's titles. We've already mentioned the lunacy of Raw and SmackDown superstars just walking and rolling around wherever they want. And also, we gotta talk about Fox. The new worry in WWE town seems to be what's gonna happen to the ratings when they do indeed move over there in October. And there is a little bit of concern given that we are only 2 weeks away from WrestleMania and those viewing figures aren't going up. In fact, they're going down. The Raw from this past week did something like a 23% drop year to year. That is a lot of people, and it did less viewers this week than it did last week. And when Raw goes, SmackDown usually follows. And at the moment, it's down the stairs. And we don't want to go down the stairs. It's nighttime. We want to stay upstairs and go to bed. And don't forget, just because they move to a network like Fox doesn't all of a sudden mean magic viewers are going to pop out of the sky. And if they do, what the hell is going on to begin with? You're basically arguing that aliens are going to become WWE's top demographic. So on paper, a great way to circumvent all of that is to allow all your top wrestlers to go from Raw to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw, because the more stars you do have, the more likely you are to get people to tune in. And I know that does stump on a lot of guys who aren't top of the card, But hey, it's not a fair world. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. I also don't think that's the main MO for WWE at the moment. They're more concerned in ensuring everything goes through the roof. And if you can say Becky Lynch or Ronda Rousey or Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns are able to come over to Friday nights, I imagine that will please a lot of Fox executives. And yeah, I know, as a WWE fan, that's what I am first and foremost. I'm probably more likely to watch. Not true, I'll watch anyway, but that kind of stands to reason to, there's a point there, there's a point. You would have to start planting the seeds now to make sure that everything is in place. October is only 6 months away, and when a brand split does end, all of a sudden WWE's touring schedule is all screwed up, and you've got to rewrite the whole thing. That's another thing to mention as well. House shows are becoming less and less profitable as the months go on, so why not do something to spice them up and try and get them back in the black? And if you can run less, but within those lesser shows, have more stars, you're probably going to attract more people when they come to your town. Especially if you know Raw and Smackdown are coming through all the time, the allure is gone. It's not as magical, it's not as appealing. Hell, you could even come up with the bizarre argument that because Daniel Bryan threw the WWE title in the trash and made his own vegan environmentalist belt, that's easier to get rid of. Because, I don't know, the Universal one is more real to the WWE, and that's just one that a certain superstar made up. I don't know, but maybe they did that because they've had this in mind for a long time. I'm just speculating. Again, Charlotte won the damn thing on a random episode of SmackDown because someone made their mind up in the morning. So don't you tell me anything is not possible. If we're not doing this either, why has all of it been allowed to happen? I know WWE likes to do a lot on the fly, but eventually it will bite you in the ass. That's just what happens. And I do want to point out too, I actually think this is the best the brand split has ever been handled. I enjoy what they do on Raw. I like the fact I can tune in 24 hours later to a different show and get a different cast of characters and different storylines, and more or less we have kept them separate. And while we've tried to get the whole Survivor Series Raw vs Smackdown thing to actually mean something, it doesn't, but it's still better than what it was. I kind of see it too as Smackdown being my wrestling show with good matches and coherent storylines, whereas Raw will just throw as many skits into my face as humanly possible. And I appreciate the differences. I think that's why I'm able to watch both shows each week and still have a smile on my face. The other thing to ask is whether or not it's time. May 2016 was that special day where a press release went out from WWE saying not only is SmackDown about to become a live show, but we're also going to split the roster down the middle too. So we're coming up for 3 years, which isn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but that doesn't mean you can't put the brakes on it. And believe you me, if the two options for WWE are carry on regardless or do anything possible to stop being bumped to FS1, and that could happen if they get on the main Fox channel and things don't go well, they're picking this hand because perception-wise, that is going to look really bad and it don't look good for you and I either. We want wrestling to continue to grow and get more eyeballs on it. If nobody wants to watch it, even when it's on something like Fox, well, where do we go? What's next? What's the plan? What road are we walking down? There have been a lot of strange decisions as of late though, and I just don't want it to continually muddy the waters. If you do keep crapping all over continuity, how do you ever get back to the point you're telling a coherent tale? And also, I want to again go on record, and I've said this before, so it's nothing new if you do watch the Y series. I am completely cool if we don't do that with unifying all the champions. So we have one women's champion, we have one men's champion, we have one IC or US champion. You push those together and you have one set of tag team champions. And that still solves the issues we've just been talking about, because you want to put Roman over there on SmackDown, give him that big bad belt, and he can be on Raw and he can be on SmackDown. And if he's a ratings draw, he's going to be helping the USA and he's going to be helping Fox. And because of that, he's going to be helping WWE too. What a good helper Reigns is. Also, do you know how dumb it is to tell someone that there's both a world champion and a universal champion? And even though the universe is quite clearly bigger than the world, they're both meant to be seen on the same level, even though they're not, because WWE prefers Raw to SmackDown. And like when you come up to a show like WrestleMania, the universal title will always be higher up the card than the WWE Championship, because that's just the way it works. I don't like telling those stories, man. It makes me sound like a Fruit Loop. So there's every chance that we are doing this slowly, and if we are, it could all work. And if you're trying to put things in place before this move in a few months' time, I will back you, WWE, because I know you're just doing what's best for business. But regardless, Just pick one and stick to it. That's my main thing. If you're gonna not have a brand split, don't have a brand split. But if you are gonna have a brand split, please at least go out of your way to tell me why Kurt Angle all of a sudden has booking powers. I get it when he was GM, but he ain't GM no more. That's why he's fighting Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 35, which means me, someone who doesn't want to see Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle, now has to hate it even more, because without even trying, you put a big stick in the story. Take your stick, take it out of my story, and put it somewhere else. But don't put it up anybody's ass. The reason I say that is because what The Rock used to say. Remember, I'm going to take something, turn it up real good, and stick it up your candy ass. What was The Rock thinking? Rock, stop putting things up people's behind. Also, what's a candy ass? The Rock made no sense, I tell you. We've all forgotten it now. We just accepted, because he was a hoot. He was illogical. That was a bit of a tangent, but look, keep it simple. Brand split, cool. No brand split, that's cool too, as long as it can all be tied up in a damn little bow. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about all this brand split good, brand split bad. Like, share, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com. Do it. There's articles. You can read it. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter. WhatCulture WWE. Do it. You like it. And watch more videos here at WhatCulture. And subscribe. I said that, but do it. Hit the subscribe button. Then you can come back easily. Don't think that's how YouTube works. Do it. My name is Simon Miller. Thank you for watching the Why series. This series where I slap my head and ask why. And all the time people say, Miller, why do you slap your head? Where did that come from? Well, you can go back and see it, man. It's all out there in the world of YouTube. I just thought it'd be funny one video. And I did that classic thing they do at wrestling shows, but they used to look for signs. I was looking in the comments and everyone said, why is this maniac slapping his head? So now I do it every video. And if all of a sudden I stop doing it, you would want an explanation. See what I did there? If you don't worry about it. Just go outside and have a nice time. And if you did, you take my point. I will see you soon.